Graveyard Shift was a short story by Stephen King that was a pretty simplistic tale about rats. It first appeared way back in 1970 in an issue of Cavalier magazine, but most of us read it in the collection of short stories called Night Shift, which came out in 1978. My best guess was that in 1989 they were looking for something, anything by King, to turn into a movie, and happened across the rat story. The story follows this guy Hall, who takes a job cleaning out the basement of a textile mill. The place is absolutely infested with rats, some of them quite large. Hall and the others venture down into the sub-basement where they encounter larger and more horrific rats, and glimpse a giant rat the size of a cow, an eyeless, legless monstrosity that just gives birth to the others. In typical Stephen King fashion, the ending of the story is both grim and cyclical. All of the characters are killed, and the remaining ones who haven't gone down to the rat's nest are all like, hey, what's taking them so long, and go down themselves. The story ends with a sort of endless cycle feel. People will continue to investigate what happened to the previous people and get killed themselves. The movie is, of course, quite different. It adds characters such as the Exterminator, a fairly minor role, only notable in that it's played by Brad Dourif, who is looking a lot like Lars Ulrich in this movie. They also added a love story for whatever reason, because nothing says true love like trying to escape from giant mutant rats. The boss character has also changed quite a lot. In the story, he was kind of a prick who overworked his employees, but in the movie, he's a crazed son of a bitch. By the end, he's the real villain who chases people around with a knife. His whole deal is he blames Hall for being stuck in the basement, as Hall suggested that's where the rats are coming from. So, of course, instead of worrying about getting out, he's worried about killing everyone. There's one part where Hall and the girl find the boss unconscious under a pile of human bones. It looks like a fucking ossuary. And you'd think that if so many people had disappeared around here, they'd know about it. Anyway, they try and help the bastard out, and he just goes and stabs the girl. What an asshole. The giant rat at the end doesn't even look like a rat. It looks more like a bat to me. I wonder if somebody made a typo in the script and the special effects people just made a bat instead of a rat. And they were just like, fuck it, let's roll with it. I wouldn't be surprised because this movie is fucking terrible. The acting and dialogue are some of the worst you'll see ever. The brief appearance by Brad Dourif is somewhat interesting, but most of the characters' acting is really over the top to the point of silliness. One thing that bugs me is the ending. The giant rat or bat thing gets its tail caught in a machine and it's thrashing around. Hall uses a slingshot to shoot a soda can to hit the button to turn the machine on, which kills the creature. Now, I could make one big leap and accept that. But my problem is right before the machine gets turned on, you clearly see the creature's tail flop out of the machine. It was like a blooper that they left in because they were lazy. If they just cut out that few seconds, it would have been fine. Well, as fine as you can expect. You really have to turn your brain off to get through this movie. It is somewhat enjoyable on an ironic level, one of those movies that's so bad it's good. You can't help but laugh at all the ridiculous lines of dialogue, the overacting, and the low-rent special effects. If you're the type of douche reservoir that likes to waste your time with your jackass friends finding awful movies and watching them for cheap laughs, then hey, totally watch this shit. But if you're looking for any sort of quality, you'll be sorely disappointed. The kindest thing I could say about Graveyard Shift is that it's utterly forgettable, if you put it out of your mind. It'll be like you never saw it at all, a 3 out of a possible 10.